The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike, here with Sam. Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's been, I think, an additional day of delays for us, so thank you guys for your patience. I am down here in New York City breathing that soupy New York air for the week and having generally a great time, but I appreciate you working with me, Mike, to give me an additional day here before we recorded.
I mean, it was a really good reason to postpone it for a day, and I think it's a good place to start. I mean, I think you should tell the people what you were doing, and I would like to hear how it was. Oh
no, I was just at the U.S. Open. I'm a big tennis fan. I talk about it sometimes on Twitter, but I guess not everyone knows. If anyone is ever, I know we have listeners out in New York, but if anyone's ever just like traveling through New York around this time of year and has the opportunity to go to the U.S. Open, yes, it's like busy and expensive and all that sort of stuff, but it was my first time there in a decade, but there's just sort of no pro sporting event that I can think of like it, because it has such a unique ambiance, and yeah, it was really cool. You never know like who you're gonna see beforehand. You just sort of purchase a ticket, but I ended up seeing. Yeah, well, I mean, you know who you're gonna see. Tournament, yeah. You know who you're gonna see like the day before. You can check. But so I purchased a ticket to one of the big stadiums and ended up seeing Francis Tiafoe, who's one of the best American male players at the moment. The reason I thought it was a funny coincidence, though, is because Francis is actually like real-life friends with Bradley Beal. And yeah. I've seen Bradley Beal at his matches before, like a couple years ago when he made a sort of improbable, crazy run at the U.S. Open to the semis. And then even last year, too, I think he was in the quarterfinals at the U.S. Open. I've seen Brad like supporting him at his matches before, so part of me was looking around. I was trying to look for his box. I was like, "Oh, is Brad here? Is he out here supporting?" He wasn't. It was a first round match. But yeah, I imagine if he
has a long run, Brad might be there again.
Could happen. Yeah. So the reason really I would recommend people come out, even if you're not necessarily into tennis, is like you buy a ticket. You don't have to do this, but the way I do it, you buy a ticket for one of the big stadiums that reserves you seats in the big stadiums. But outside of that, you can also just go around, especially if it's in the first week of the tournament. There's matches going on all the time on lesser courts. And you just have access to the entire grounds, and you can just walk around. And on basically these like Little League style bleachers all over the grounds, there are these professional players who may not be like, top 10 in the world playing on those smaller courts, but like still really, really good professional players that you get to see up close and personal, like with a level of intimacy that I think just doesn't really exist in other professional sports as we know it. So it makes it a pretty special experience.
It's extremely cool. And you got to see a cool tennis player play. I'm very jealous. I would like to go as well. Tennis is one of the most fun spectator sports to me, and I think it would be very fun to be there in person. Like I said, a good reason to postpone this a day. And this time of year, it's not like there's a ton of pressing matters. There's a possibility of a trade, or I mean, 2 players were waived since the last time that we spoke on this podcast, which was a little bit surprising. And we do have that to talk about, but it's nothing major unless a bomb is dropped, which could happen. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But the first thing I think we should cover, Suns related, is that the Phoenix Suns waived E.J. Liddell and Nasir Little on the same day. It actually hit the transaction wire today, but it was announced, almost a week ago at this point, after we did our previews last week. And that means that the Suns, they did have currently 16 players before that on the roster. So now that actually opens up a single roster spot by waiving both of those players, and then saves significant tax money for Matt Ishbia by stretching out Nasir Little's salary over the next few years in order to not just add to that tax bill this year for a player who was making a lot and was probably not gonna play very much, maybe at all. And apparently, based on this news, had zero trade value. That's the only really conclusion that we could potentially draw from this, right? Because
sure,
they would have traded him if they could have, but apparently it seems like that was not a possibility for them.
Yeah, so Liddell was obvious. I think we were all anticipating that would happen sometime between now and training camp. Yeah, the Nas news definitely surprised me. I mean, did it surprise you too on the day of? Like, I would say it didn't rise to the level of justifying an emergency pod or anything.
Right.
But, I think we can attack this from a couple of different angles. So there is the luxury tax thing, which I think is important. You already mentioned it. Sam Vecini was the first one who on the day of I saw come out with some analysis about that. He came out with the numbers and said that by waiving and stretching Nazir Little, it will give them, instead of a $6.8 million cap hit for the next few years, it will give them a $3.1 million cap hit for the next 7 years. And that, yes, in saving those $3 million this year, it's not actually just $3 million because of how far above the second apron the Suns are, how far into the luxury tax they are. It will save them $22 million in luxury tax payments this season alone. I think that's important to note because obviously we don't want to give people the wrong idea of like, yeah, there's a reason that Ishbia, it makes sense for him to want to save this money to a certain extent. But what I do also think that analysis misses the mark on a little bit is that Ishbia has never given us an indication, at least with the way he's run the team so far, that he's scared off by any of the second apron rules, right? We know that there's a whole host of these rules coming that are going to affect the Suns for the next several years if they don't get themselves out of the apron. And yet Ishbia has not publicly made any comments about how they're going to try and get out of the second apron and start saving on luxury tax penalties over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years, right? So this saves them $22 million this season alone, yes. But it's also a $3.1 million cap hit over the next several years that I'm not sure that, saving money was really the justification here as much as the fact that they couldn't trade Nas. I'm sure they were trying for months. And now, actually, the open roster spot presents some pretty interesting choices for them to make going into the season, right? It's not just about money for me as much as it's about continuing to be able to improve the team this year. But what do you think?
I was immediately suspicious. The timing of it was weird. They had time to do it. They didn't have to make the decision for another week and a half or so. So to do it that early, I think it means that they probably, one, exhausted every single option, of course, to not trade him, because I think that was the goal, is to trade this guy. But obviously saving money was the main thing. So if you're saving money, that probably means that you're probably not planning on signing another player. Now, you can still sign another player potentially and still be saving money instead of it being Nazir Little, because that player will make less than him with that salary stretched over a longer period of time. It's not going to cost the same $40 million of tax penalty that you're saving, or whatever it's going to be overall. So that maybe they're not going to sign somebody, but I was immediately suspicious that there was going to be some sort of trade, because the Suns are in a scenario where the only way to add salary is to sign a player. If they made any trade, because they can't take any additional salary for any trade that they send out, that would mean likely that they're shedding salary in any trade that they make. So opening up a roster spot just opens up the possibilities, as you were noting, of sending one player out for two players who make less money and less money than that single player overall, because that's the only way the trade is legal based on the second apron rules, for those who don't remember. So I was immediately suspicious of that, and that is still possible, by the way. There's two things that could potentially happen when it comes to a trade. And I'm not saying it's going to, and I haven't heard anything, so I'm not necessarily as suspicious of it today as I was the day that I saw the news that Little was waived. But one, Yusuf Nurkic, that's the obvious one. We've made many fake Yusuf Nurkic trades on this podcast.
I'm prepared to throw out a couple more today, but I'll let you get to number two.
Okay, first. And it's Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen, the one who can't be traded until October because of when he signed his extension. You need at least 60 days in order to trade somebody after an extension is signed. And the reason I was immediately suspicious is because in the James Jones tenure, there have actually been multiple trades that have happened late in the offseason after you think everything is already over. And I'll reference both of those trades right now. Last year, this one most people will probably remember, the DeAndre Ayton trade. Most people thought the roster was set, and everyone was convinced that DeAndre Ayton was going to stay. Frank Vogel was out there speaking to everyone about how excited he was to coach DeAndre Ayton. Everyone had their articles and podcasts up about how Frank Vogel could transform him into that defensive center that we all wanted him to be. September 27th is when that trade went down. That's a month from now. That is a very late in the game trade.
That's also
with
what?
DeAndre Ayton being involved.
10 days before preseason?
Yeah, it's right before.
Something like that? Yeah, that was cutting it close.
It really was cutting it close, and it just shows a willingness to wait. Now, the one caveat to all of that is that Damian Lillard was traded, and that's what opened up the possibility of DeAndre Ayton being traded, and that's what held up that trade for the longest period of time. But the Suns could have said, we're out of it. This late in the offseason, we don't have time to get our roster together. We're no longer in. You know, if you believe all the reporting, they didn't even know for sure that it was Grayson Allen coming back to them in that trade. Secondly, this one's a little odd because of the COVID season. Chris Paul being traded to the Suns was pretty late in that offseason as well. It actually wasn't until November 16th of 2020 that the Chris Paul trade was made.
When did that season start? Was it in December or January?
Early December, I believe, was when when preseason started. So it's just a few weeks before preseason in that season as well. So these are two major trades that James Jones himself, and that's an important caveat here too, because it's James Jones. We're not talking about previous general managers here. That James Jones has made late in the offseason. Now, that has just caused me to just be a little bit aware of the possibilities of a late offseason trade. No matter how much I think the roster is set, no matter how much I think the roster is done here, I'm not 100% certain because I just think there's no way to be. Now, it could be as simple as what Shams Charania has said. They're opening up possibilities for future trades, or if a player shakes loose at some point, or maybe a player gets injured, they have a roster spot so they can sign somebody to a full roster spot. It could be as simple as that. Or it could be that they're trying to negotiate a trade right now and want to open up a roster spot. Having been almost a week since they've announced the waiving, or maybe even it's been a week. I think it's probably about a week. I'm less suspicious of that now, admittedly. But I'm not, I'm not going to make the graphics for our Patreon yet with all the players on it.
That we need Cage to update every year for us because inevitably it gets out of date. Yeah, I'm here to tell you right now, this roster's not set. Either in the way that Shams is talking about or in the way that you're talking about. But they're carrying 14 roster spots into training camp for a reason. And there are also so many additional trade opportunities now that, look, admittedly were available to them before. They would have just maybe had to involve a third team in some cases or waive a player who maybe, they weren't interested in waiving before. But now I feel like there are a lot of trade deals you could potentially make if you want to talk about Nurkic deals. Maybe now there are more. Now there are more one-for-one team opportunities, whereas before you felt like maybe you had to rope a third team into it. Look, you might still have to rope a third team into it, especially if we're talking about the fact that the Suns don't have really much in the way of draft compensation, and maybe they need to get a third team involved to send whoever is taking on Nurkic to agree to take on some picks, right, or something like that. But I still think they're being active right now. Mm-hmm. We're going to go into a whole host in the second half of this episode of like what's real and what's not with this team right now regarding workout videos we're seeing and other little bits of info. But, if you're Yusuf Nurkic, if you're Grayson Allen, I don't think you can feel especially secure. You might be on particular training regimens. You might be taking advice from the team. But there's no reason for those guys to feel 100% secure in their roster spots.
Yeah, and even if, James Jones, to me, it was very clear that they were out there trying to do something because they were clearly trying to trade Little. We know that for certain. I think that was just something that was happening. They probably offered him to every team in the league, likely for nothing, in order for them to save money. And look, this is the ramifications, I think, of the DeAndre Ayton trade, a trade that's kind of interesting to look at in retrospect now, in the way that we view it overall, in that when it happened, first of all, Toumani Camara was a surprise, right? Toumani Camara going out in that trade. You and I, of course, got very excited about his fit with the team. I still think he would have been an awesome fit next to KD.
I like him, but I do think his impact as a rookie was a little bit overstated. Like I do think a few too many.
It's a value
Suns
pick. He was picked way late in the draft, so
I know, and I think he's going to have more value than the traditional 56th pick or whatever 52nd, whatever he was. But we saw a lot of Suns fans grasping onto that one throughout the season, being like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they gave up Toumani Camara. This is
a lot of Josh Okogie minutes will do that to you."
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
He's okay. Let's see Portland win more than 25 games first.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to put that on him, but yes. Looking at it all in retrospect, it's just kind of funny. At the time, Jusuf Nurkic was what he was. You know, it's just the expectations on what Jusuf Nurkic can be for this team. I think we were all pretty... Sorry if you could hear my dogs barking in the background here. But we were all pretty realistic about what Jusuf Nurkic was likely going to be for this team. There wasn't anyone trying to sell him as a star. I personally was kind of upset with Grayson Allen coming to the Suns. Had not been a fan of him. And I was excited by the possibilities and the potential of Nasir Little. Now we're at the point where we've made 1,000 Jusuf Nurkic trades. We were completely out on Nasir Little playing any minutes for the Suns, and now Grayson Allen's our favorite player back in that trade. So it's just kind of a bizarre, whole changing of events, series of events that happened in that trade in retrospect.
Can you remind me, is your favorite Nurkic trade still out there? The Dorian Finney-Smith and Day'Ron Sharp? Is that what the package was?
No, I think now with the new year's salary, it's slightly more than what Nurkic makes.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. But it
would have had to be done before July 1st. Yeah.
I think it's generally because Nurk's deal went up to $18.1 million is what he's currently at. And so obviously you're looking for two role players that you can take back who make less than $18 million. I think you have the right idea, though, targeting a team like Brooklyn. We just talked about on our last Patreon episode where we were recapping the Eastern Conference and all the moves that the East made and basically how terrible the conference is and how many teams are going to be in the cellar of that conference. If you look at all those teams and you've got Brooklyn and Detroit and Washington and Toronto and Charlotte and who am I missing? I'm missing a couple. Atlanta? What is Atlanta doing?
Okay,
you look at all those teams.
Patreon episode, yeah.
What'd you say?
We talked a lot about Atlanta on our last Patreon episode.
Yeah.
It's just a very confusing situation for them.
You look at all those teams, and what they share in common is, first of all, not a lot of good centers on those teams. Now, that makes sense because we're talking about some of the worst teams in the league. But also, I'm sure some of those teams are going to be full-on tanking for Cooper Flagg. But you also got to feel like at least one of those teams is going to be sitting there mid-season in like the 10th seed and thinking, do we go for it? You know? And like maybe those are the types of teams you target. Now, I'm sorry to attempt to banish Jusuf Nurkic to one of those rosters.
Atlanta. It'd probably be Atlanta.
Atlanta? Yeah. Well,
they have Trae Young still.
They have Trae Young still. They also have Clint Capella still. Clint Capella makes more money than Jusuf Nurkic.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy at this point.
So
that's
Clint
the type of thing that makes me appreciate Jusuf Nurkic.
Clint Capella is not a guy you can take back. Not that you'd want to. But
he's
maybe
not very good anymore. Yeah,
maybe they want to move off Clint Capella, and again, instead of starting
DJ Matty Tellum, is that what you're saying?
They bring in Jusuf Nurkic.
Yeah.
You know who makes less than $18 million combined on the Atlanta Hawks? Expiring Larry Nance Jr. And Dyson Daniels.
It's interesting. Who starts for the Suns? Plumlee?
I mean, I think you could talk yourself into starting Nance, or you could start Plumlee,
Yeah.
or you could start Plumlee.
I think you're going to have to talk me into Nance if that's the case.
Okay, I mean, I think he's fine. I think he's a stopgap. I think there's a chance Dyson Daniels becomes really good, and I also think that, well, I know that Monte Morris and Tyus Jones are both on minimum deals, and Dyson Daniels is 6'8", so you can play him next to those guys and get away with it. He's a 6'8" point guard.
It's definitely interesting. Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
That's
a big guy.
just one. That's one idea.
Okay.
Charlotte.
You have more? Okay.
I'm just thinking. I'm throwing things out. We're trying to feast on. we're vultures circling.
Yeah, we're already 20 minutes into the waiving of Nazir Little on
circling these Eastern Conference.
It's pretty
corpses.
amazing. I'm proud of us.
Thank you. Josh Green is on the Charlotte Hornets now.
Yeah, that's true. And
Josh
why is
Green,
he there? Yeah.
Josh Green, and either Nick Richards, either Nick Richards or Mark Williams.
Yeah, Mark
plus
Williams
Josh Green.
preferably.
That's less. That's less than 18 million.
Mm-hmm. That's
is that
not bad.
Is that a deal? Is Josh Green?
Not bad.
One thing I thought about there is that Josh Green is admittedly like more of a shooting guard than he. It's kind of the Royce O'Neal thing again.
Yeah,
like you're kind of getting another Royce O'Neal instead of ideally you get like a 6'8" wing. I get that, but he'd be some great wing depth, and I'm not going to hold you. Nick Richards and Mark Williams are not good.
But Mark Williams has more potential. Nick Richards, I'm not sold on. Mark Williams is young enough that you could talk yourself into some pretty high potential with this.
If you're viewing either guy as just like a 20-minute starting center stopgap, and then you give another 20 minutes to Mason Plumlee, and then you're going to play a lot of small ball 5, and you just want to be really, really strong around the wings, it's an option.
Yep, it's interesting. I think they would have done that if they could have. I'm not sure.
It's possible. It's possible none of these teams.
Yeah.
It is possible all of these teams view Nurkic's deal as poison and would say, give us like first round picks, which the Suns don't have. Yeah. So I'm, to a certain extent, I'm sure they've had these conversations. I'm sure they're trying. We got a little inside look at the Suns process coming out. What did you think of this? Or are we saving this for the second segment?
Let's save
we go?
Let's save
it. We'll save it. I want to get your take on it though, because it was funny.
Yeah. Okay, actually, yeah, I think we're good on Nazir Little.
On Nazir Little,
unless you have any other trades.
Not for now.
Dorian Finney-Smith, if you can find a way, and I'm just going to send this out there. If people can figure out a way to get Dorian Finney-Smith and someone else in a 3-team trade, I would like to hear that trade.
Yeah, I think the 3-team trade would be most interesting because the thing that you were talking about, like Daron Sharp is actually kind of good, but Daron Sharp doesn't work under the constraints of that money anymore. You'd have to take even Noah Clowney might be too much. Noah Clowney was a rookie last year.
Yeah, because he was a pretty high pick. So yeah, he probably is too much. As we know, Daron Sharp was the last pick in that round of the draft because that was the pick the Suns traded for Landry Shamet. All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what's real and what's not this offseason so far. We'll be right back. All right, Sam. It's Muscle Watch time, or
yes.
What do we call this time of year? Muscle Watch season.
Call it Muscle Watch. Every year we got to talk about Muscle Watch.
Workout videos, and centers all of a sudden have developed handles, and they're shooting fadeaways.
Ben
outside
Simmons
of the paint against
Ben
6
Simmons
foot guys.
shooting threes season is traditionally what it's been known as by some.
And there's a lot to talk about. I think there's some version of like us trying to figure out what's real and what's not. And I think most often, if I'm being honest, before we, not to ruin the whole segment, usually I just assume all of it's fake.
Episode over. See you guys next week. Yeah. We're done here.
I'll never forget the Knicks fans getting excited over Mitchell Robinson going between his legs twice in a workout video and just thinking, no, he's not going to do that in an NBA game. The average NBA player would pick that from him in a second and take it the other way. But yeah. So I'm trying not to be those guys in this conversation, but I have hope at least for some of this. And since you brought it up, this is sort of a non-traditional version of talking about this. So we're going to talk about what's real and what's not. We're going to start with the Suns produced draft content that they released that I think was cool and also maybe a little bit not real.
Staged?
Yeah.
Are you calling this a hoax? Are you saying that this was the moon landing or what?
Anytime you cut
the moon landing happened, by the way, before anyone comes after me for that.
Anytime you cut from something that's really happening to what they call in the reality TV biz a confessional video where you're talking directly into the camera and describing something that happened, you're cutting something out, right? You're using talking to tell a story instead of showing the story in real time. The other thing let's talk about what it is first for those who missed it. The Suns yesterday posted a about 4.5 minute long video inside the draft war room, as they call it, during the NBA draft, showing the decisions that they made that led to the trade, which I thought was real, by the way. I think all of this was real. Showing the trade, talking about how they want it done, and trying to figure out a way to use the pick that they have to still get Ryan Dunn and get other assets out of that. I think all of that was actually pretty interesting, and it was kind of cool to see the process of a bunch of guys who are honestly just as awkward as you would think. If anyone thinks that they're super cool, watch that video and you'll see that this is all just a regular office just like anywhere else. They just happen to be making decisions that'll impact a lot of people's mood over the course of the next year or two. That part was cool, and then they went on to show the rest of it, which was them drafting Oso Ighodaro, which also was still kind of cool and a little bit funny overall. But what did you think of that video? Let's start there.
Yeah, it was funny. I don't take it too seriously because of the way they were trying to raise the production quality and the suspenseful music in the background and the little one-liner quips from Matt Ishbia of like, are you sure 26 is better than 28? Are we going to go for 28 because the number 26 is better than that? It's just, I don't take it.
It's a little bit better, he said.
Yeah, it's a little bit better. I don't take it too seriously, and I don't know if I want to use it as an indication going forward of like who's really in charge between Ishbia and Bartelstein and James Jones. Not okay. Verdict not entirely real, but a lot of fun. How about that?
It's the reason I wanted to say what's real and what's not. The reason we put it in here is to say that I don't think it was entirely real either, but I still really liked it. I think it was produced similarly to like the Amazon show with is it Hard Knocks or what is it called?
Hard Knocks, yeah.
There's Hard Knocks that's on HBO. There's another one that was on Amazon, I think, over the course of the last few years that included some of the off-season, which I find kind of interesting. Is the off-season stuff is almost more interesting than the training camp preseason stuff, because the off-season is where decisions get made. That's what Moneyball is about. It's nobody ever makes a movie about preseason. They make a movie about the end of the season, or they make a movie about the off season. Those are the stuff that's actually kind of interesting. So in this case, seeing them sort of deliberate and seeing James Jones say, "Let me call you back in 3 seconds. Let me call you back in 5 minutes. Let me get it up, shoot it up the ladder, and get it approved." That kind of thing was kind of cool because that probably was pretty intense in that moment. They probably felt the adrenaline flowing in that moment because they were making decisions that have consequences. And to have cameras in the room during that and to release it in the way they did, I think it was cool. So I appreciate the fact that they did that. And I did find that there was a moment where off camera, Matt Ishbia says, the two guys that we really want are Oso and Ryan.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Part I was like, why was that off camera? Why did he say that off camera? That part was because is that real?
Well, because what was he going to do?
Second round,
but what was he going to do the night of? He was going to look directly at the camera and be like, "Yes, the two guys we really want are Ryan and Oso," and it just wasn't going to happen like that in real time.
When you get that deep into the second round, I think there's a chance they picked Oso because he fell into it. They traded up for that too, right?
Yes.
If you remember, they moved.
No, you're right. There's no way they go into the first night of the draft thinking, like, if we don't get Oso Ighodaro, then we did a bad job. They must have had a list of a bunch of guys.
Exactly. I think there's a chance that it was produced in a way to make it look like those two guys were the definite for sure things, and they absolutely nailed the two guys that they wanted to get. I think it was produced in that way. But I think they probably had multiple options for that second round pick that they were looking at, not just one. Maybe they zeroed in on Oso. That's possibly true. But I'm very curious about how that actually worked. I appreciated that they released that. I hope they produce more content like that. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that from an NBA team before. It's all a little bit silly and all a little bit cool and dramatic.
I want to say off the top of my head, now I could be wrong about this, but I feel like the Toronto Raptors have released some content like this before that I've seen. What?
Just Masai saying no to people asking him to trade players.
It's just Masai being like, "Is this guy 6'10" and looks like a spider? I want him." Something like that. But I want to say,
can he shoot? No, I don't want him. Then
I want to say, if you go on YouTube, you can find some of that stuff. But I could be wrong.
Maybe. Let's see. there's more. My phone's making a noise here. Sorry. There's more that we should talk about here that happened in the offseason. And now we'll shift over to the Muscle Watch stuff. We'll shift over to the offseason workout videos. We'll start with Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen posted a photo, multiple photos, and some videos of him online that got a lot of Suns fans talking. I think the question with Grayson Allen here in the picture I saw, and this is what I'm wondering of you, does he look like he gained muscle weight?
Oh, that's where you want to go with this?
Or does it look like he's out of shape a little bit?
Or does it look like he's on the Luka Doncic routine?
He's on the Yusuf Nurkic, Luka Doncic routine. I
think to me it could be a couple things. So first of all, let's set the table with, Grayson Allen is listed at 198 pounds. I don't know if that's 100% true. That's just what the NBA, that could be what he was a few years ago, and it hasn't been updated. But that's what the NBA's website is telling me. That Grayson Allen is 198 pounds. He's 6'4". Obviously, he came in to be a shooting guard for the Suns, and basically his entire career he's been primarily a shooting guard. He looks bigger than 198 pounds now.
He looks bigger. He definitely, without a doubt, looks bigger than he did last season.
He looks maybe 20 pounds heavier than 198 pounds, if you ask me.
Yeah, and he played small forward last year. You know what I mean? There is a possibility that Grayson Allen said, I'm looking at my role on this team and what I could potentially be when the big three is on the floor, and I'm going to be guarding guys that are bigger than me, and I want to get more muscle, or... he went on a long vacation and he put on 15 pounds, and he can lose all that weight before the season starts. I'm not sure. That's the question. Is this real or not? Yeah.
To me, it looked like muscle. It didn't look like fat. And particularly, I was looking at his shoulders and his upper body just looked a lot bigger in a way that was not necessarily I didn't see a ton of stomach fat or whatever.
Yeah.
I
think you're probably right. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get too into the weeds about I don't know, talking about these guys' bodies, because at a certain point I feel like it's weird.
No, I know what you mean.
I just looking at Grayson's upper body in particular, it feels like he was on the Ish Wainwright, David Roddy shoulder workout, whatever that is.
There's someone in Phoenix that runs him through, doing shoulder pulls.
that they were specifically trying to tell him that, you're going to play a lot more three. You might even on this team. You might even be playing a little bit of the four if you're Grayson Allen. Is that inconceivable? You're Grayson Allen, you're Royce O'Neal. You are 6'4", 6'5", in Royce's case maybe, but those guys could play four this year, and so they're going to need to guard bigger guys. They're going to need to shoot a lot. The other thing though is it's always possible that these videos were taken right after Grayson got a pump in. You know what I mean? And maybe there was a little that could be a little bit doctored too, but I'm tempted to say that
just a little bit bloated. Yeah,
I'm tempted to say my verdict here is that this is real. That this one is more real than fake. That Grayson Allen has been hitting the weights and he's going to come in looking the strongest of his NBA career.
I think there's times where someone says they put on 15 pounds of muscle, and you look at a photo of them and you go, "No, you didn't," or it's just you don't look 15 pounds bigger, and maybe they are. I mean, they're very tall, so it's spread out a little bit more. But when I looked at Grayson, I thought, this guy looks like he's gotten a little bit bigger muscle-wise, and we'll see. Because without a doubt, it's not. I don't think it's a question of does he look bigger or not. We're not looking at this picture and debating whether or not he looks bigger. He definitely does look bigger than he did last season. It's just about whether or not that... is muscle. And I do wonder, I'll say this. I just had a quick thought of how does this impact his shot? Because the shot was probably more important than the muscle.
Any shooter would have, they're not going to make any great reforms to their training regimen without considering how it's going to affect their shot. Grayson Allen just signed, what was it, $70 million over 4 years? Yeah, he knows that the shot is what earned him that. He's not going to mess with that. If anything, he
just signed it. I mean, he's not trying to earn it at this point.
No, I suppose, but he'll be 31, 32 when it expires and eligible for another big contract. The way the CBA is going, maybe he can get $30 million in 4 years. Who knows? So I'm sure he's obviously concerned about how any workout is going to affect his shot. My question to you is going to be, is there a chance that if Grayson actually did put on 15 pounds of muscle, Could he become like, I really don't know how it works. Could he become a sharpshooter from like 30 feet out? Like, what if he what if he just maintains the same exact form, but just has even more range in a way that he's never had
looked
before?
At Eric Gordon and said, that's going to be me this year.
Yeah, except
I need to be
taller.
a little wider, a little thicker. Yeah, taller, obviously, in this case. Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's part of it, right? Is definitely muscles.
Grayson Allen.
The
also,
verdict is that it's real. Grayson Allen, muscle watch, real.
Weird thing that I think we never maybe gave Grayson credit for this year, as long as we're talking about him guarding up 3s and 4s. So first 5 seasons of Grayson's career combined. Utah, 2 years in Memphis, 2 years in Milwaukee. 5 seasons combined, he had 48 blocks. This one season in Phoenix, he had 45. Almost the same number. He went up to over half. He went up to over half a block a game. Now, I'd have to go back and look at exactly the tape to see, we always talked about how Chris Paul got those fake blocks, just like stripping guys at the right time. I'd have to see how many of those are real blocks versus fake blocks.
I think it's probably a lot of that, but I wouldn't call those fake.
Well, it's generating a turnover, but it's not really a block. I always thought that was kind of dumb.
Total minutes
those
played.
get counted.
Okay. Yeah, so it was the most minutes he's played by like over 600 minutes or around 600 minutes as well. So I'm sure
but still. Okay, but still, think about this. 5 seasons
the block
combined.
Percentage went up.
5 seasons combined, over 6,000 minutes played. And then last year he played 2,500 minutes and had basically the same number of blocks. Like something changed. That's real.
It definitely went up. His block percentage went up season over season by 1%, which is a lot in block percentage. Yeah, that's interesting. All right, let's talk about the next guy. The guy that actually Grayson Allen went out to visit, apparently, because there were photos of them together. This is Jusuf Nurkic, who, I mean, by all accounts, is doing the opposite of Grayson Allen in that he looks a little lighter. He looks a little skinnier. And he, in every video he's posted, which has been more than one, I think 2, maybe possibly 3 videos that Jusuf Nurkic or somebody around Jusuf Nurkic has posted, he's just shooting threes. Just out there behind the 3-point line, launching threes over and over and over again. And it looks natural. Everything looks natural in the offseason when no one's guarding you and you're not sprinting out there in order to shoot it. This is obviously would be a game-changing thing for the Suns, right? Finding a role for Jusuf Nurkic where he's additive off the ball on offense. If he can continue being the guy that he was with rebounds and defense, I think could change the actual trajectory of the Suns' season. This is something that happened under Bud with Lopez in the past.
Yeah. No, I know we keep throwing out the Lopez comparison because of just how much we want it to be real. I think that's a really good way that you put it, of finding a way for Nurk to be additive off ball. I'm not sure we've ever described it in exactly those terms, but that's precisely what it is, right? It's understanding that if there are so many options to have the ball in their hands now for the Suns, we don't really need Nurk's short roll abilities as much. I mean, it's still nice to have, don't get me wrong. Like, I still don't necessarily want to substitute that with a center who, again, like DA is entirely afraid to dribble the ball. But his initiative abilities are just simply reduced in this offense. And as a result, we need him to give us anything else on offense. So that's either the 3-point spacing or improved finishing. I would so very much love for this to be real. I'm sorry. I can't believe it until we see it. I can't.
I think I agree. Yeah, it's really tough.
I believe the weight
really
thing,
tough,
right? Like, I think so.
But that could help him, right? It could help him injury wise. It could help him with his shooting. That is, I think those go hand in hand. In that, I think he's attempting to be a player who could shoot threes. He's changing his body in a way that could help him shoot threes.
Let's be honest too. Nurk is he's such a gifted rebounder. He's listed at 290 pounds. The next biggest son is Mason Plumlee at 254. Let's say he goes down from 290 to, I don't know what he looks like in those videos, 270, 260?
Yeah, I mean, how tall is he? So he's
7 foot.
He's 7 foot even. So yeah, he's probably 270. Yeah,
290 is huge.
He doesn't look 290. That's for sure.
It might come at a sacrifice to his rebounding, if we're being entirely honest. Like, it's just a little hard to, box off 1 or 2 guys at once and swallow up boards. But if it allows him to stay on the court a little bit better and run the floor a little bit better and, I don't know, finish in transition and hit trailing threes and all that good stuff, then I would say that's a sacrifice that's worth making, essentially. So, yeah, I hope this is true. I don't know. With the 3-point thing, I'll just believe it when I see it. I'm going to go into the season, if he's still on the roster, that is, assuming that Nurk is like a 30% 3-point shooter if he's just going to start taking 4 or 5 a game.
That would be an improvement. Last year, he shot 90 3-pointers, which is more than I thought, and made 22 of them, which is a 24% rate.
Yeah, 28%
season,
for his
which
career.
We talked about. Yeah, and the previous season, which we talked about before, he took 119 and made 36% of them, which is a much, much better rate. Obviously, if he could make 36% from threes, he could shoot 3 or 4 a game at that point, and it would help the offense. So, yeah, this is just one of those things where every NBA player in an open gym can hit shots. And for me, until I see you doing it in real game action after, fighting through screens, after screening guys, after battling for rebounds, and then you're catching, and then you're shooting, and the pressure is on, the shot clock is winding down, that's the scenario where you have to hit the 3. It's not in a wide open gym with a trainer passing it to you. The thumb problem was a problem. We can't keep pointing at it and saying it's going to solve everything if his thumb is better. But it definitely was a problem. There's just no reason to believe. The verdict is this is not real. There's no reason to believe that this is real.
It's a good reminder of just how much of a difference there is between these guys and us average Joes, right? Like, sometimes people just need to be reminded that an NBA player could walk up to a public court outside and drain, or not even an NBA player. Like, you'll see G League guys do this. They'll drain 90% of their threes in practice. And it doesn't mean it's real once you're in the heat of battle.
Verdict is it's not real. Sorry, Yusuf Nurkic. I really hope it is.
I hope
more
it's real.
than
I hope
Grayson
we revisit
Muscle
this.
Watch, more than anything else. Yeah.
I hope we revisit this because, again, what you said, that would be a trajectory changer more than maybe, like, other than just the team staying healthy as a baseline, right? More than any other thing that could change this year, like a player adding a new skill that we're not anticipating. Yusuf Nurkic being Brook Lopez, game changer if it happens.
All right, this one is a little unconventional in this category. Is it real or not? I want to talk about NBA 2K ratings of players. And this is just, not to become the podcast that's dedicated to talking badly about Jason Tatum. But look, we already are. We can't really help this at this point. So I wanted to cover these ratings, and we want to talk about if they're real or not. How good they are. Are they really bad? Or are they really good? And part of this is anytime there's a player rating system here, it's exactly to generate conversations like this, to remind people that NBA 2K25 is on sale. And if you ask me, you should not buy that. I'm sorry if they're an advertiser with Blue Wire, but it's a bad game. Don't buy these games.
Mike, they don't need Blue Wire. I don't think they're advertising with us. Right. Here's the sad truth, my friend. I am going to buy this game. I know you're going to try and talk me out of it.
You can do whatever you want with your money.
Well,
you will regret it.
I won't. I will regret it, and I won't regret it. I sometimes you just need to unwind with a stupid game. And for me, the big success is that I've been able to whittle it down to only buying the game every other year now, right? Because it gets to the point where it's been 2 years and I want the roster update. The last game that I had was a Devin Booker cover. Now it's 2 years later. I want the roster update. So I'm going to get this game. It's going to piss me off. I hate that we live in a country. Well, it's not like the country's fault, but I hate that they can get away with this system. They already make so much money off the game sales alone. And all these 14-year-olds on day one are going to spend $50 of their parents' money to up their players or whatever to like a 90 overall so that they can play
virtual
in park.
Currency. Yeah,
in additional VC. Yeah, I'm an adult. I can afford that, but I shouldn't have to. I want to be able to grind my way to a reasonable overall with my player.
Well, yes, and they make it impossible on purpose to try to force you to spend more money. It is a complete scam. I hate it. And the frustrating part, not to make this entirely a rant about 2K, the frustrating part about this is there's no competition. There is nothing that comes close to this as a basketball game. I don't really care. Honestly, I don't really care if it's NBA related. If there was just a very fun basketball game with a large enough player base to make it worthwhile to play online, I'd very much enjoy that. Nothing comes close. Let's talk about it anyway. There are 3 players, current players, with a 97 rating in NBA 2K25. These are the 3 best players in the NBA, or projected to be, according to NBA 2K, who, of course, adjusts their ratings throughout the season. Do you want to guess who those 3 players are?
Jokic. Is that one?
Yep.
Luka.
Yep.
Giannis.
Correct.
Okay.
According to NBA 2K, those are the 3 best players in the NBA. There are 2 players underneath that with a 96 overall rating. You want to give it a try? We can keep playing this game. If you'd like me to read them out,
I'm decent.
Okay.
I'm decent at this game. I'm going to guess Embiid's one of those.
Correct.
Shea is the other one?
Shea is the other one.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, I just go by like who got MVP votes last year, right? Like that's reasonable.
Smart.
Those 5.
That's smart. All right, and there are now 3 players. This is rounding out 6, 7, and 8 in the top 10 that are a 95 rating overall.
This is where I don't. Well, I know one of them because it's stupid. I don't know the other 2. So
yeah,
give it
the one went viral for Suns Twitter, and that's Jason Tatum. You don't have to say it. And the other 2 just won gold medals. Does that help you out?
Drew Holiday? No, I'm kidding. Wait, who just won gold medals? Who? Anthony Edwards?
It's LeBron James and Steph Curry.
The woo.
And how
okay,
dare you?
I was gonna
honestly.
No, I was gonna say if Anthony Edwards was a 95, that's bad. Let's be honest, right, man. LeBron's not a 95. He's not.
Yeah, but also you kind of want him to be in a video game, right?
Sure.
Like I don't want to buy a video game in LeBron James. It's not very good. If I'm playing with LeBron James, I want him to be good. You know. Okay, so that's 6, 7, 8. Rounding out the top 10 is Kevin Durant at 94, and then one more player in the NBA at a 94, which is kind of surprising to me, and it was Anthony Davis, who I think maybe benefited a little bit from the Olympics where he was really good. And went
the
up
Lakers
one
bump
from last year. And the Lakers bump, we all know that exists. They got to sell the game after all. And then we have the next group of players, which is where I think it gets kind of interesting. There are 3 players in this game that are 93 overall. I think you know one of them.
Devin
Booker. Yeah.
Devin Booker.
Do you know the other 2?
Anthony Edwards is one of these.
It's correct.
Or am I still wrong? Okay.
No, you're right.
I don't know the other one off the top of my head.
Jalen Brunson.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting. And then I'm going to go through a few more here. 92s are Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown, Kyrie Irving, and Kawhi Leonard. And then the next few players to round out the top 20 are Victor Wembanyama, who's the sole player with a 91 overall, and then Tyrese Halliburton with a 90 and Ja Morant with a 90. And then it starts dropping down from there. You got Damian Lillard, Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Paolo, Trae Young, players like that.
Sounds about right, honestly. With
the top 20 feels like the top 20. I think, right? If we're going to say something's real about this list and is it real or not, it's that the top 20 feels like the top 20. That feels like the top 20 players in the NBA. I think you could make that case. Victor Wembanyama may be a little bit high, but if you're projecting for next season, I think it's a fair thing to think he's going to get better with Chris Paul on that team. What is Anthony Edwards good at as far as that? What makes Anthony Edwards a player that's equal to Devin Booker on this? Is it just because he's young and they're
in the ratings? It's probably all of the athletic attributes, right? I mean, he's probably got super high dunk and vertical and all that stuff type ratings.
Because otherwise, if you look at box score stats, which I'm sure they look at other stuff, it's just steals and blocks.
Book. Yeah.
And
no, but
Booker's better at everything else.
Absolutely. And KD is better than Tatum at everything.
And KD is better than Tatum.
That's the real.
What is Tatum better? It's rebounding. Tatum's better at rebound. That's like the only thing that Tatum is better than Kevin Durant at.
He's the cover.
You could say
athlete.
drives. I don't even know that that's true. It's not like Tatum. Yeah, he's the cover athlete. You're right. Okay,
That's really why this is. Yeah, he's the cover athlete. Let me just read
then
you
it's
out.
fake. It's not real.
Yes, this is fake. This is not real. This is the most fake of all the fake things we're talking about today. Let me just read you out here. The Celtics starting 5. Jason Tatum, 95. Jaylen Brown, 92. Kristaps Porzingis, 87. Drew Holiday, 87. Derek White, 86.
Yeah.
For anyone who plays 2K, you can instantly spot that this is bullshit, man.
Yeah, every Play Now online game is going to be the Celtics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah, that's going to be tough to beat.
When the Heat Big 3 were assembled in 2K like 10 years ago, Chris Bosh was like an 83. And you're telling me that Derek White is an 86? What is that? Tatum should be lower. Holiday should be lower. White should not be an 86. He should be like an 81, 82. He's a good role player.
Feels right where he is. Tatum and Brown should be like the same rating.
Yeah.
I really,
Porzingis, 87. I think that's fine. But the rest of these guys, there's a lot of home cooking. Peyton Pritchard's a 79, for God's sakes.
That's pretty crazy. What is he good at in the game besides shooting?
Probably just I don't know, man. I don't know how they do these things other than to piss us off.
Well, I think the most upsetting thing is that Jason Tatum is above Kevin Durant and that Anthony Edwards is equal to Devin Booker. At the very least, I think Booker should be one higher than Edwards here. I think the nice place would be, and this is not how they played last year, I think, so it's fair to keep them out of this if you're just looking at it. But I think if you're trying to judge them as individual players, 9 and 10 for Kevin Durant and Devin Booker would feel the best. Like if they were just in the 9th and 10th spot, maybe Kevin Durant up above Tatum, so you got, Kevin Durant. I think Booker's better than Tatum. I don't know if we've had that conversation here, but I know Steve Kerr thinks that. So, the ideal maybe version is 8 Kevin Durant, 9 Devin Booker, 10, Anthony Davis, and then you got Tatum after that. That would feel a little better. I don't know if people listening to this would quibble with Jalen Brunson as the same level as Devin Booker last year, but I think that he was that last year.
I think Brunson's, I was surprised.
I don't know if Brunson could sustain anything that he did last year over the long term, but he was absolutely incredible last year. So
yeah, I don't know if he can. I don't know if he can sustain it either, but I think Brunson's probably earned it. Now that I think about it,
yeah, I think so too. I think it's fair. I just don't know that that's real or not. Devin Booker has sustained what he's done. Essentially, last year was his best statistical season when it comes to points and assists. But outside of that, he's sustained this level of goodness over the last 5 or 6 seasons. He's basically the same player for 5 or 6 years in a row as far as stats go. Just getting a little bit better at the little things every year.
Which Suns player, as long as we're doing the 2K thing, which Suns player, I wish I had their whole roster now. Maybe I can look it up.
I don't know if have they released every player? I don't know.
They've released, I think, almost every player here. I got it for you. Hold on. Yep, here we go. Do you want me to read out the whole roster? I don't have to, but here's my prompt, okay?
What's Beal?
As you're thinking about these. Beal is an 85. He is lower than Derek White, which maybe he should be.
Honestly, he is. That Mikal Bridges is an 84.
Mikal Bridges is an 84? That is interesting. So we've got Durant, 94, Booker, 93, Beal, 85, Nurkic, 80, Tyus Jones, 80, Grayson Allen, 79. Grayson Allen is the same overall as Peyton Pritchard.
Yeah, that's wild.
Grayson Allen, 79. Mason Plumlee, 78. Feels kind of high. Monte Morris, 76. Bol, 76. Royce, 76. Feels low. Damian Lee, 75. Like Royce, there's not a 1 overall difference in Royce O'Neal and Damian Lee. I'm sorry. Josh Okogie, 75. Colin Gillespie, 69. Which of these guys, I guess who we don't have here. Oh, no, we do. We do actually have them. Ryan Dunn, 70. Oso, 68.
Yeah, rookies. Yeah, unless you're...
you don't expect rookies to be good.
Who's going to change as the season goes along?
That's what I wanted to ask you. Which of these numbers changes the most by season's end?
I hope it's one of the rookies, but ideally Bradley Beal, right? If Bradley Beal gets up into the 90s, that means the Suns are cooking. They're playing. That means
they're cooking for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
it would be nice if we had an 85
big-shouldered
rookie.
Grayson Allen gets all the defense lockdown badges and is like an 85 by the end of the season. Or the other option, Bol, if he's like 6 man of the year level stuff, could go up from a 76 to an 80.
It's true.
The last option I would say, if like one of Ryan Dunn or Oso really establishes themselves in the rotation, I could see one of those guys in the mid-70s by the end of the year.
NBA 2K ratings are not real. It's official.
They are not real. They're officially not real.
The verdict is in. Let's just recap. Grayson Allen Muscle Watch, real. Nurkic off-season three-pointers, not real. NBA draft video, somewhere in the middle, right? I mean, the Suns draft video, it's real and maybe a little bit not real. NBA 2K ratings, not real. One thing I want to talk about, that's our real and not real segment. There you go. But one thing I want to talk about before we go here is that Goran Dragic retired. He announced his retirement a while back. But he retired with like a whole ass event with a red carpet, people taking photos, and then a bunch of former teammates and, countrymates, as well, coming out and playing with him in like an exhibition game, an all-star style game, essentially, with players that have interacted with him throughout his career. I didn't watch it. I know it was broadcast on the NBA app. I didn't watch it, but it seemed like not a game it wasn't a game, let's be honest. It was just, it was.
I saw the clip of the Jokic breakaway self alley-oop, and I think not
it's funny
real.
That Jokic,
verdict.
I think it's funny that Jokic does that there and not in the NBA All-Star game, by the way.
Yeah, that's funny.
But first of all, kudos to Goran Dragic for having enough people in his home country to care about him to put this kind of event on. He's definitely done a lot in his career. But obviously, he was drafted to the Phoenix Suns, spent a long time with the Phoenix Suns, sort of came into his own on this team when he returned to the Phoenix Suns. And, I just wanted to give him a little shout out here on the podcast. I will always remember the Goran Dragic years because it was, post Steve Nash, things were looking pretty grim. And he was like this ray of hope for a while there in a young player that was coming into his own on the Suns. They missed the playoffs. But they won 48 games. 48 games. You look at the standings in the West now, it goes a lot further. It's just one of those years where it was very difficult to make the playoffs. And I really enjoyed Goran. I have a Dragic jersey, so I really enjoyed Dragic this time.
Left due to basically a dispute created by Ryan McDonough.
Yeah, and probably not helped by the former owner of the Suns.
Yes, of course. But, a lot of fans held that against Goran at the time, myself included. I felt that it stung in the moment when he first went to Miami. I got over it eventually and enjoyed his tenure in Miami, but it stung for a little bit. Hindsight has proven Goran entirely in the right, because Ryan McDonough was a
moron,
just a loser GM, and Robert Sarver was a loser owner. Yes,
he was weird.
So we moved on
Ryan
from those
McDonough
guys.
saying that he kicked Dragic on the way out. He really was just, he didn't handle it well in any way. But yeah, Dragic I loved. Good time. I'll never forget. We all know the fourth quarter where he absolutely decimated the San Antonio Spurs. I'll never forget where I was watching that. I had a great time. One of the most fun playoff moments I've experienced.
Most improved
life, so. Shout out Dragic.
Most improved player season. 40 points against the Pelicans was another high that I think about. I think about him hitting bank shot threes over Anthony Davis that season. Also, I was thinking about what you said about the 48-win season. I'm not sure we've ever had this conversation, but given how many times the Suns have been in that position of being a ninth seed that missed the playoffs, I wonder if any of those teams, I'm thinking about like the Shaq Suns were in this position. The bubble team. The 13-14 team with Dragic and Bledsoe. If the play-in existed for any of those years, I wonder if any of those teams would have had like a shot, like a real shot in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it would have been. The bubble team was killing it. The play-in didn't exist in the bubble, right? Was it the next year that they? I don't remember where the Suns finished that year. Yeah, but that team was the team that I think was playing at a level beyond where they played at the rest of the year. So they I think would have killed it in those circumstances. And then the Dragic team, I think what was interesting, the 48-win team, for those who don't remember, Bledsoe and Dragic were the starting backcourt. Bledsoe missed like half that season. And that's what made Dragic kind of come into his own, where he had the ball a lot more. And then Bledsoe came back, and they still played pretty well after he was healthy again. So they had the chance to be even better with more talent going into the playoffs. But, of course, 48 wins wasn't enough. So that team could have been pretty good, too. What do you think?
Post All-Star break, I'm just trying to remember how much I can from that team. They were 30-21 going into the All-Star break, which means post All-Star break they went 18-13. That's pretty good. 18-13. And yeah, because also, Gerald Green was such an integral part of that team. So being able to bring him off the bench once Bledsoe was back, you were really cooking. Man, you had the Channing Frye comeback that year.
Mm-hmm. Back-to-back game winners, I remember.
The Morris twins, unfortunately, they suck. But they were reasonably good players in their prime. I have to give them credit for
Markieff, yeah. Markieff in the clutch, yeah. Well, I know you were posting Markieff clutch stats on Reddit.
I really was, dude. I was like Sam Cooper in 2014. If you went on Reddit, you were finding me post about how Markieff Morris was basically LaMarcus Aldridge, the second coming. So yeah, we've come a long way. I think that should wrap up our conversation on Goran
I got
Dragic.
one more thing for you, not Dragic related. Netflix announced a documentary on the basketball tournament at the Olympics that's going to be released next year. So apparently Netflix was there filming the Olympics this year. So it's kind of cool that we're going to get extra content from this Olympics beyond what was broadcast. And then I think Devin Booker's stuff was
we already got
more interesting stuff.
We already got a decent amount of stuff through Book. I wonder if Book will play nice with them and give them those clips in case they'd like to use some of that stuff for the documentary.
And I'm sure there's stuff he didn't even use that he also has. He was constantly filming.
Should be cool.
So I don't know if you saw this, but I'm really excited for it, being the fact that, of course, Devin Booker's there and Kevin Durant's there, but also I think the last Olympics for LeBron James and the only Olympics for Steph Curry, and of course how it ended, the close game against Serbia. I think this could make for some incredibly compelling content, even if the team that was the favorite ended up winning it all. It's just there's a lot of personalities that were there, so I'm looking forward to watching that.
Yeah, I had no idea.
You got anything else before we go?
No, I think that's it. We'll see you guys in a couple days.
Yep.
And
we appreciate you all. Back with the Patreon podcast midweek. And yeah, thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you very much.